The air in La Serena is thick enough to chew, a heavy perfume of garlic, expensive wine, and the low thrum of whispered secrets. I move through it like a ghost, my worn non-slip shoes silent on the polished marble floors. My name is Alara, and tonight, like every night, my job is to be invisible. I balance a tray of empty champagne flutes, the delicate glass clinking a soft, nervous rhythm against my hip. The main dining room is a sea of dark suits and shimmering dresses, the patrons a collection of powerful men and the beautiful women who accompany them. They speak in low tones, their laughter never quite reaching their eyes. This isn't a place for joy, it's a place for business, the kind that happens in shadows and costs more than I will ever make in a lifetime. If slow burn romance with high stakes is your thing, hit subscribe. Now back to the story. I weave between tables, my head down, my focus on the kitchen's swinging doors. That's my sanctuary. Out here, I am a servant, a piece of the furniture. In there, I am just a Lara, trying to make rent and finish my degree. A hand shoots out, not to grab me, but to place an empty glass on my tray. I murmur a quiet, grazy, out of pure habit, a relic of the summers I spent with my Nana in her sun-drenched village near Naples. It's my secret, a small piece of warmth I keep tucked away in this cold, opulent world. I don't look at the man, just continue my path, but I feel the shift in the atmosphere even before I see him. It's like a sudden drop in pressure, a change in the current that makes everyone still. The conversations don't stop, but they lower, becoming more subdued, more careful. I risk a glance from under my lashes as I near the kitchen. He's just entered, and the room seems to bend around him. He isn't the largest man in the room, nor the loudest, but he is the center. He wears a suit that looks less like clothing and more like a second skin, charcoal gray and perfectly tailored. His hair is dark, streaked with a distinguished silver at the temples, and he moves with an unnerving stillness, a predator's grace that doesn't waste a single motion. This is him, the one they call Falcone. Vito Falcone. I've only seen him from a distance, a silhouette in the back of a town car, but in person, he's a force of gravity. His men, two of them flanking him, are like planets caught in his orbit, their faces grim and respectful. He is led to the best table, the one in the corner that is always kept empty, the one with a view of the entire room and the door. I slip into the kitchen, letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. The chef, a man whose temper is as fiery as his oven, just grunts at me. I start stacking the dirty glasses, my hands moving automatically while my mind races. Falcone is here. That means trouble is not far behind. I've worked here long enough to know the signs. The quiet tension, the extra security, the way the manager, a sweaty, nervous man named Mr. Rixai, practically prostrates himself whenever Falcone's name is mentioned. I want to go home. I want to be in my small apartment, with my textbooks spread out on the couch, the smell of instant ramen in the air, and the city lights my only company. Instead, I tie my apron a little tighter and prepare to go back out there. I'm refilling water glasses at a table near his when it happens. A phone rings. It's not the generic trill of a patron's cell phone, it's a sharp, insistent buzz, the sound of a business phone. It's coming from the table next to Falcone's, where one of his men is sitting. The man, a mountain of muscle in a too-tight suit, is focused on his boss, his body language screaming alert. He doesn't seem to hear the phone. It buzzes again, louder this time, vibrating against the polished wood of the table. People are starting to notice. The low hum of conversation falters. Falcone doesn't move, but his gaze shifts slightly, a flicker of annoyance in his dark eyes. The man at the table still doesn't react. He's waiting for a signal, an order, and the phone is an interruption he cannot afford to acknowledge. I am closest. I am just a waitress, a piece of the scenery. My feet are moving before my brain can catch up, a lifetime of conditioning to be helpful, to solve a problem, taking over. I take 2 quick steps to the table, lean down, and pick up the sleek black phone from where it sits next to a half-empty glass of wine. The screen is dark, but the buzzing is insistent in my palm. I don't think, I just react. I press the green accept button and bring it to my ear, my voice a calm, professional whisper I've practiced 1,000 times. Pronto? The Italian word slips out, natural as breathing. A beat of silence on the other end, then a harsh, guttural voice, also in Italian, barks, "Is it done? Is the package at the dock?" My blood runs cold. Package, doc, this isn't a dinner reservation. My mind scrambles, the nana's Italian, the language of comfort and food and love, suddenly twisted into something ugly and dangerous in my ear. I can't panic, I can't hang up. I can feel Falcone's eyes on me now, a physical weight. I have to diffuse this to play a part I never auditioned for. Un momento, I say, my voice impressively steady. Per favor. One moment, please. I lower the phone from my ear, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I turn my head slowly, holding the phone out to the mountain of a man who finally seems to realize what's happened. His eyes are wide with a mixture of shock and sheer terror. He looks from me to his boss, and I know he is a dead man walking. I don't look at Falcone. I can't. I keep my eyes fixed on the man in front of me, my hand outstretched, the phone a damning piece of evidence. The entire restaurant is silent now. Every single person is pretending not to watch, but they are all watching. The air crackles with a tension so thick I can taste it, metallic and sharp. The man takes the phone from my trembling hand, his fingers brushing mine, and he brings it to his ear with a slowness that suggests he is moving through water. He mumbles something into the phone, his face pale, then ends the call and places it face down on the table, his hand covering it as if he can hide the mistake. I straighten up, my tray feeling impossibly heavy, and I turn to walk away, to retreat to the safety of the kitchen, to pretend this never happened. Wait! The voice is quiet, but it cuts through the silence like a shard of glass. It's not a shout, it's a command. I freeze, my back to him, my entire body rigid. I can feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me, but his are the only ones that matter. They are burning holes in my uniform. Turn around. I swallow hard, my throat dry, and I do as he says. I turn to face him, Vito Falcone. Up close, he is even more intimidating. His eyes are the color of old whiskey, dark and swirling, and they hold a stillness that is more terrifying than any threat. They don't just look at me. They seem to peel back the layers of my skin to see the frantic, terrified beat of my heart, the cold sweat blooming on my palms, the single, screaming thought in my head, I am going to die here. The restaurant is a vacuum, all sound sucked out, leaving only the roaring in my ears. I am a specimen pinned to a board, and he is the entomologist deciding how to preserve me. What is your name? The question is soft, almost conversational, but it lands in the silence with the force of a physical blow. My lips are dry, stuck together. I have to force them apart. Alessia. My voice is a thread, a pathetic, reedy thing. I hate the sound of it. Alessia, he repeats, and the way he says my name, rolling the L's just slightly, makes it sound like a possession. Something he has just claimed. He leans forward an inch, the movement minimal but seismic. And what, Alessia, did you hear on that phone? The truth is a lead weight in my stomach. Package, doc, to say those words feels like signing my own death warrant. To lie feels impossible. I can see it in his eyes, in the absolute authority that radiates from him. He would know. He would know the moment the lie left my lips. My gaze darts around the room, a desperate, useless search for an escape that isn't there. The other patrons are studying their menus, their wine glasses, the pattern on the tablecloth with an intensity that is laughable. They are all listening. They are all witnesses to my execution. My family's debt flashes through my mind, not as numbers on a page, but as the image of my father, his shoulders slumped, the lines on his face deeper than I'd ever seen them. We owe the Don. It's a debt of honor, a debt that has now become my shroud. I can't run. I can't hide. All I can do is answer. A man asked. He asked if the package was at the dock. The words are barely a whisper, but in the dead quiet of the Bella Vita they echo. Don Leonardo doesn't react. No flicker of surprise, no flash of anger. He simply watches me, his expression unreadable. He steeples his fingers, his index fingers tapping lightly against his lips. The gesture is thoughtful, almost academic, as if he's considering a complex business problem, not deciding my fate. What did you say, Alessia? I said. Un momento, per favor. A ghost of a smile touches his lips, but it doesn't reach his eyes. It's a chilling, mirthless thing. Clever, you kept your head. He leans back in his chair, the motion releasing a fraction of the pressure in the room, but not from me. I can still feel his gaze, a physical touch. You finish your shift, he says, his voice returning to that quiet, commanding tone. Then you will come with me. It's not a request. It's not an invitation. It's a statement of fact, as immutable as the sunrise. My mind stumbles over the words. Come with him. Where? Why? The fear that was a roaring fire a moment ago freezes into a solid block of ice in my gut. I can't, I stammer, the words out before I can stop them. My family? Your family's debt to me is considerable, he interrupts, his voice dropping, losing all its softness, becoming hard as granite. Do not presume to tell me what you can and cannot do. You will finish your shift, you will collect your things, you will wait for me by the staff entrance. Is that understood? I can only nod, a jerky, puppet-like motion. My throat is too tight to form words. He gives a slight, dismissive wave of his hand. Go! I don't need to be told twice. I turn and flee, my tray clutched in my hands like a shield. I don't look back. I feel the collective sigh of relief from the room as I push through the swinging doors into the kitchen. The chef yells at me for being slow, but his voice is a distant buzz, a meaningless sound in the chaos of my mind. I lean against the cool stainless steel of a counter, my legs trembling so badly I'm afraid they'll give out. I'm going with him. The Don. The man whose name is whispered in fear, the man who owns a piece of my family's soul. The next hour is a blur. I move on autopilot, clearing plates, refilling glasses, my body performing the familiar motions while my mind is a prisoner of the future. What does he want with me? Am I a witness he needs to silence, or something worse? The thought is so terrifying I shove it away. Mr. Rixai, the manager, finds me bussing a table. His face is pale, his brow slick with sweat. Alesha, he whispers, glancing around nervously. The Don, he spoke to me, you are to be released from your duties, effective immediately. He won't meet my eyes. I am sorry. He's not sorry. He's relieved that the trouble is walking out the door with me. I just nod, my throat thick. I don't bother to go back to the locker room. I have nothing here I want to keep. I grab my worn canvas jacket from the hook by the back door and step out into the cool night air. The city sounds, the distant wail of a siren, the rumble of the subway, the laughter of people on the street, are alien to me. They belong to a world I no longer inhabit. I stand in the shadows of the alleyway, the brick wall cold against my back, and I wait. It's not long before a sleek black town car pulls up to the curb. It's the kind of car that doesn't just drive, it glides, a predator made of steel and glass. The back door opens from the inside. I know I'm supposed to get in. Every instinct screams at me to run, to disappear into the crowded streets, to take my chances. But the thought of my family, of the consequences of my defiance, is a chain around my ankle. I take a breath that feels like swallowing glass and walk toward the car. I slide onto the cool, supple leather of the back seat. The door clicks shut behind me, the sound final and absolute. Don Leonardo is already there, sitting in the opposite corner, a silhouette against the faint city lights. He doesn't look at me. He doesn't speak. The silence in the car is a living thing, heavy and oppressive. It's worse than shouting. It forces me to sit with my own terror, to listen to the frantic rhythm of my own heart. I press myself against the door, trying to put as much space between us as possible, but it's a small, meaningless gesture. He fills the space, his presence a palpable force. The driver pulls away from the curb, merging smoothly into the traffic. I watch the familiar streets of my neighborhood, the neon signs of the bodegas, the warm glow of apartment windows as they slide past, taking me further and further away from my life. After a few minutes, Don Leonardo takes a phone from his inner pocket. The screen illuminates his face, casting sharp shadows that make him look even more formidable. He speaks in low, rapid Italian, his voice a low murmur I can't quite decipher. Words like messaggio and traditor slice through the hum of the engine. He's not just a restaurant patron. He's a general commanding his troops, and I am a conscript being taken to the front. He ends the call and slips the phone back into his pocket. The silence returns, but it's different now. It's charged with the business he just conducted. I am no longer just a witness. I am an accessory, a piece of cargo in his dark world. We drive out of the city, the buildings giving way to darker, more sparsely populated roads. The streetlights become fewer and farther between until we are driving through a landscape of black silhouettes and moonlight. Finally, we turn onto a long, private road, gated and flanked by imposing iron fences. At the end of the drive stands the mansion. It's exactly as I've always pictured it, and worse. It's a monstrous structure of dark stone and towering windows, most of them dark. It looms against the night sky, not like a home, but like a fortress. A few lights burn on the lower floor, casting a warm, deceptive glow that does nothing to soften the building's imposing facade. The car circles a grand fountain and stops at the main entrance. The driver opens my door. I hesitate, my hand frozen on the handle. Out. Don Leonardo's voice is flat. I flinch and scramble out of the car, my shoes crunching on the gravel of the circular drive. The air is cold and smells of damp earth and distant pine. He gets out on the other side and walks toward the massive oak doors, not bothering to see if I follow. He knows I will. I trail behind him, a ghost in his wake, my footsteps silent on the stone steps. The doors swing open before he reaches them, revealing a vast, dimly lit foyer. A man in a simple, dark suit stands inside, his face impassive. He bows his head slightly as Don Leonardo passes. Don. Leonardo. The man's voice is low and deferential, his eyes fixed on the floor. He doesn't acknowledge me at all. I am an object, a piece of luggage brought in from the car. Don Leonardo doesn't break his stride. He walks deeper into the belly of the house, and I have no choice but to follow, my footsteps swallowed by the immense space. The foyer is a cathedral of shadows and cold stone. A grand staircase sweeps up into darkness, its banister a slick, black serpent of polished wood. The air smells of lemon wax, old paper, and a faint, sharp scent of ozone, like the air after a lightning strike. It's the smell of power. He leads me not toward a sitting room or an office, but through a pair of tall, unadorned doors into a library. It's the only room so far that feels truly lived in, but it's the life of a predator, not a family. Walls are lined floor to ceiling with books, their leather spines gleaming dully in the firelight from a massive stone hearth. A heavy desk of dark, carved wood sits before the fire, and two wingback chairs are positioned before it, like thrones awaiting supplicants. "Sit," he says, gesturing to one of the chairs. His voice is still flat, devoid of any inflection. It's the voice of a man who has not needed to raise it in years. I sink into the chair, the leather creaking under my weight. It's soft and expensive, a stark contrast to the hard, wooden chairs at the cafe. I feel like a child who has wandered into a giant's lair. He moves to a small bar cart in the corner, his movements fluid and economical. He pours 2 glasses of a deep amber liquid from a crystal decanter. The clink of the glass is the only sound in the room. He turns and walks toward me, holding the glasses. I shrink back, my heart hammering against my ribs. He stops in front of me and holds one out. I stare at it, my mind blank. "Drink," he commands. My hand trembles as I reach for the glass, my fingers brush his. They are cool, dry, and the contact sends a jolt through me that is part terror, part something else I refuse to name. I take the glass, the heavy bottom cool in my palm. He doesn't sit in the other chair. He remains standing, looking down at me, a silhouette against the fire. He takes a slow sip of his drink, his gaze never leaving my face. "Now," he says, his voice quiet but cutting through the silence like a shard of glass. "We are going to talk about the phone call." My throat tightens. "I don't know anything," I whisper, the lie tasting like ash. "I was just taking a message." A flicker of something in his eyes, annoyance, maybe disappointment. "Do not lie to me, Alessia. It is a habit you will find, painful to break." He sets his glass down on the mantelpiece with a soft click. "The man who called, what was his name?" "He." "He didn't say?" "What did he say exactly, word for word?" I close my eyes, trying to recall the exact Italian phrases. The fear makes my memory fuzzy. "He asked for a delivery to the old cannery at the docks. He said the order was for due pescae and that the acqua era alta." I open my eyes. He is watching me intently, his expression unreadable. "And what did you think that meant?" he asks. There's a trap in the question. I can feel it. I thought it was about fish," I say, my voice barely audible. "A delivery for a restaurant." He takes a step closer until his legs are almost touching my knees. I can feel the heat radiating from him, smell the clean, sharp scent of his cologne mixed with the whiskey on his breath. "And yet," he says, his voice dropping to a low murmur, "you wrote it down. You didn't just dismiss it. You wrote due pescae on your pad." He knows, he saw me. My blood runs cold. I always write down the orders," I stammer. "My job. It was your job to take a message for a rival family, confirming a drop point for 2 kilos of heroin, a drop that could only happen because the high tide, the Acqua Alta, would cover the usual patrol route." The words hit me like physical blows. Heroin, rival families. My simple, mundane world shatters into a million pieces. The phone call wasn't a mistake. It was a key turning in a lock I didn't even know existed. I didn't know, I breathe, the words a desperate prayer. I swear. He leans down, his face inches from mine. The firelight catches the harsh planes of his cheekbones, the dangerous glint in his dark eyes. I believe you, he says, and the relief is so intense it makes me dizzy. Your ignorance is the only thing keeping you alive right now. He straightens up, the moment of terrifying intimacy broken. He walks back to the mantelpiece and picks up his glass. Your family owes me a great deal of money, Alessia. Your father's gambling. It was a sickness. A weakness I was happy to exploit, but debt is a contract, and I always collect on my contracts. He swirls the amber liquid in his glass. That debt makes you mine. Your actions today, however, your ignorance has made you a liability, a loose thread. He looks at me over the rim of his glass, and I do not like loose threads. The fear is back, a cold, coiling serpent in my stomach. What are you going to do? I ask, my voice shaking. He drains his glass and sets it down with a decisive click. We are going to see if that thread can be woven back into the tapestry, or if it needs to be cut. He walks to the door and opens it. The man in the dark suit is standing right outside, as if he's been waiting there the whole time. Bring the car around, Marco, Leonardo says. We're going to the docks. Don, Marco bows his head and disappears down the hall. Leonardo turns back to me. Finish your drink, he says. It's not a suggestion. I lift the glass with a trembling hand and swallow the whiskey in one burning gulp. It sears a path down my throat and blooms into a fire in my chest, a small, desperate warmth against the encroaching cold. He waits by the door, a patient, implacable figure. I place the empty glass on a small side table, my hand unsteady. I stand up, my legs feeling like they belong to someone else. Let's go, he says. The ride back to the city is different. The silence is no longer empty, it's filled with the unspoken horrors of his world. I stare out the window, but I'm not seeing the lights. I'm seeing kilos of heroin, hearing the words rival family and loose thread. I am a loose thread. And he is the man who holds the scissors. We don't go back to the cafe's neighborhood. We drive deeper into the industrial heart of the city, toward the water. The air changes, growing thick with the smell of salt, diesel, and rotting fish. The streets are narrower, potholed, and lined with chain-link fences topped with barbed wire. The streetlights are fewer, casting long, distorted shadows that look like grasping claws. This is a different world from his manicured estate. It's a world of rust and decay, the world where his business truly gets done. Leonardo doesn't speak on the phone this time. He sits in the darkness, a statue carved from shadow and impatience. He rolls up the sleeves of his shirt, revealing strong forearms dusted with dark hair. I see a thick silver watch on his wrist, its face gleaming. It's the only piece of jewelry he wears. It's a simple, powerful statement. He is a man who measures time, and who knows that his own, and mine, is running out. The car finally turns down a rutted, unpaved road that runs between two enormous, abandoned warehouses. Their corrugated iron sides are streaked with rust, their windows like vacant, dead eyes. The car's headlights cut through the thick fog, illuminating a single steel door at the base of one of the buildings. Two other cars are already parked nearby, their shapes hulking and menacing in the mist. Marco stops the car and kills the engine. The sudden silence is deafening, broken only by the distant mournful cry of a foghorn and the lapping of water against the nearby pylons. "Stay here," Leonardo says, his voice a low rumble. He gets out of the car, and Marco follows him. I watch them walk toward the steel door. Leonardo moves with an easy confidence, a man completely in his element. He doesn't knock. He simply pushes the door open and steps inside, disappearing into the black maw of the warehouse. I'm left alone. I'm left alone in the car, a steel cage in the belly of a sleeping beast. The silence is a physical weight, pressing in on me from all sides. The engine ticks as it cools, each sound a tiny hammer blow against my eardrums. Fog has begun to creep against the windows, blurring the harsh lines of the warehouses outside, turning them into hulking ghosts. I wrap my arms around myself, but the cold isn't just from the night air. It's a deep, internal chill that started the moment Leonardo said the word heroin. My world, which just this morning consisted of the clatter of plates, the smell of fresh espresso, and the friendly banter with the morning regulars at Bella Vita has been irrevocably poisoned. I try to picture my father's face, the way he'd smile at me over a Sunday dinner, but the image is corrupted by the knowledge of his debt, his sickness. A weakness Leonardo was happy to exploit. My family isn't just indebted to him, we belong to him. And I, with my one foolish act of answering a ringing phone, have just made our situation infinitely worse. Loose thread. The words echo in my head. I see a tapestry, a rich, dark, intricate weave of power and violence. And I am a single, bright, stupidly colored thread sticking out, begging to be snipped. He said he was going to see if I could be woven back in. What does that even mean? What could he possibly want from me? To be his informant, his messenger, something worse. The possibilities are a kaleidoscope of horrors, each one more terrifying than the last. Minutes crawl by, each one an eternity. I strain my ears, trying to hear something from the warehouse, but there's nothing. Just the drip, drip, drip of moisture somewhere in the car and the distant, lonely sound of that foghorn. It feels like a warning, a lament for the lost. I should stay here. He told me to stay here. Marco is right outside, a silent, imposing guard. Disobeying Leonardo feels like a death wish, but the silence is its own form of torture. My imagination is painting pictures far worse than reality could ever be. I picture Leonardo, his face cold and unforgiving, ordering men to be executed. I picture rival families, guns blazing. I picture myself caught in the middle. Then a sound splits the night. It's not loud. It's muffled by the thick walls of the warehouse, but it's unmistakable. A sharp, crackling pop, a gunshot. My heart seizes in my chest, a bird caught in a trap. My breath hitches. Every nerve in my body screams at me to stay put, to curl into a ball and disappear. But another part of me, a part I don't recognize, is propelled forward by a surge of pure, unadulterated panic. What if that was him? What if a rival got the drop on him? The thought is so absurd. Leonardo seems invincible, but it flashes through my mind with the force of a lightning strike. If he's gone, what happens to me? To my family? The debt doesn't just vanish. My hand is on the door handle before I can consciously decide to move. The metal is cold as ice. I push the door open, the soft click of the latch sounding like a thunderclap in the oppressive quiet. I slip out of the car, my sneakers making no sound on the damp, gritty ground. The air is thick and heavy, smelling of salt, rust, and something else, something acrid and wrong. I hug the side of the warehouse, the corrugated iron rough against my jacket. The single steel door is slightly ajar, a sliver of absolute blackness promising nothing but danger. My legs feel like lead, but I force myself forward, one step at a time. I have to know, I have to see. I peer through the crack. The interior is vast and cavernous, a cathedral of decay. Shafts of moonlight pierce the grime-coked windows high above, creating spotlights of dusty light that illuminate a scene straight from my nightmares. In the center of one of these spotlights, I see them. There are 4 men. Leonardo and Marco, I recognize their silhouettes instantly. They are standing over 2 other men who are kneeling on the concrete floor. One of the kneeling men is sobbing, a pathetic, broken sound. The other is silent, his head bowed. Leonardo is holding a gun, not a huge, imposing weapon, but a sleek black pistol that looks like an extension of his hand. He's not pointing it at anyone's head. He's just holding it, relaxed, at his side. But its presence changes everything. It's the coiled snake in the garden. My blood turns to ice. This is it. This is his world, not the mansion with its crackling fire and fine whiskey. This. Cold concrete, kneeling men, and the casual, terrifying presence of a firearm. You were told the cannery was off limits, Leonardo says. His voice isn't loud. It's calm, conversational, which makes it 100 times more frightening. It carries easily in the dead air of the warehouse. My territory, my rules, you broke them. We didn't know it was yours, Don. The sobbing man whimpers, looking up. His face is a mess of snot and tears. We were told the spot was clean. A one-time drop. Leonardo takes a step closer, his polished shoes seeming to float over the filthy floor. You were told by the Gallo family, a family of rats and cowards, and you listened. You came into my city, to my docks, to move your poison. Did you think I wouldn't know? The silent man on his knees finally speaks. His voice is low and raspy, laced with defiance. We do what we have to do. This is a mistake. Leonardo's head tilts, a predator's gesture. He moves so fast I barely see it. One moment he's standing 10 feet away, the next he's in front of the defiant man, the pistol whipped up and crashing down on the man's wrist with a sickening crunch of bone. The man screams, a high, piercing shriek of agony that bounces off the metal walls. He cradles his shattered hand to his chest, his body writhing on the ground. "You do what I say you can do," Leonardo corrects him, his voice still dangerously quiet. He hasn't raised it once. He looks down at the writhing man with no more emotion than he would a bug he's just stepped on. He then turns his attention to the sobbing man, who is now frozen in terror, his eyes wide with a new understanding of his predicament. "Now," Leonardo says, crouching down so he is at eye level with the remaining man. "Let's try this again. The phone call. Who made it?" The man's eyes dart around wildly, looking for an escape that isn't there. Marco stands like a monolith by the door, his face impassive. The other man is still moaning on the floor. There is nowhere to go. It was me," the man stammers, tears streaming freely down his face. "I made the call, to a cafe, Bella Vita." My heart stops. He said the name, he said my cafe. "Why?" Leonardo asks, his voice a soft, deadly whisper. "It was a test," the man babbles, the words pouring out of him in a torrent of fear. "A new number, a clean line, we didn't think. We didn't know anyone would answer who mattered. It was just a message. A confirmation, du pescai, 2 kilos, aqua alta, the tide, it was supposed to be safe." Leonardo nods slowly, as if this is exactly what he expected to hear. He stands up, his gaze sweeping across the empty space of the warehouse. For a terrifying second, his eyes seem to land directly on the crack in the door where I'm hiding. I freeze, certain I've been seen. But his gaze moves on, and I realize he was just scanning the shadows. "You see," Leonardo says, his voice now carrying a different tone, one of instruction. He's not talking to the man on the floor anymore. He's talking to the room. To me, a simple message, a meaningless detail, but a detail is a loose end. A person who hears that detail, even by accident, is a liability. They can be used against you. They can be turned. They can be broken. He takes a step back and gestures with the gun toward the man who is still sobbing on the floor. "This one is weak. He will talk. He will tell the gallows everything. He is a liability." He then points the gun at the man clutching his broken wrist. "This one is defiant. He will seek revenge. He is a liability." He pauses, letting the words hang in the air. My own breathing is shallow, my lungs burning. I'm not just watching a Mafia transaction, I'm attending a lecture on power, and the tuition is paid in blood and bone. But sometimes, Leonardo continues, his voice dropping to an intimate murmur that somehow carries more weight than his threats, a liability can become an asset, if handled correctly, if broken properly and rebuilt into something useful. The sobbing man looks up, a flicker of hope in his terrified eyes. "Please, Don, I'll do anything, I swear." The crack of the gunshot is deafening in the enclosed space. The man's words cut off mid-sentence, his body slumping forward with a wet thud that echoes my own heart hitting the floor of my chest. I clap a hand over my mouth to stifle the scream that builds in my throat, bile rising hot and acidic. The metallic scent of blood mixes with the salt and rust of the warehouse, creating a perfume of death that clings to the back of my throat. Leonardo doesn't even flinch. He simply turns to the other man, the one with the shattered wrist still moaning on the concrete. "And you have a choice. Die here now quickly, or live and serve me. The gallows have already betrayed you. I am your only future." The man looks from Leonardo's cold, impassive face to the body of his companion, then to Marco standing like a statue by the door. His decision is written in the defeat of his shoulders. "I'll serve," he whispers, blood and tears mingling on his face. "I'll serve you, Don." "Good," Leonardo nods to Marco, who steps forward with a first aid kit seemingly from nowhere. As Marco tends to the man's wrist, Leonardo's gaze sweeps the warehouse again, and this time I know he sees me. His eyes linger on the crack in the door, and I can feel his attention like a physical touch, hot, and possessive. You can come out now, Alesha. My body freezes, every muscle locking in place. He knows, he's known all along. This wasn't just a business transaction, this was a test, a lesson designed specifically for me. I said, come out. His voice is still soft, but there's an edge to it now, a command that brooks no disobedience. My legs move mechanically, carrying me out of the shadows and into the moonlight. The concrete is cold beneath my sneakers, each step echoing in the vast space. I keep my eyes down, afraid to meet his gaze, afraid of what I'll see there. Look at me. I force my head up, and when our eyes meet, something shifts in the air between us. His expression is unreadable, but there's a fire in his eyes that wasn't there before. Something dark and hungry and possessive. What did you think would happen when you followed me? He asks, taking a step toward me. That you'd witness a simple business meeting. That this world would be anything less than what you see before you. I heard a gunshot, I managed, my voice trembling. I was worried. Worried? He's closer now, close enough that I can smell his cologne beneath the coppery scent of blood, something expensive and dark, like leather and spice. You were worried about me, or worried about what would happen to you if I died? The question hangs between us, heavy with implications. Both are true, but admitting either feels like surrender. Does it matter? I whisper instead. A slow smile spreads across his face, and it's more terrifying than his anger. It matters to me. He reaches out, his fingers tracing the line of my jaw. His touch is gentle, almost reverent, which makes it all the more frightening. You see, Alesha, most people would have stayed in the car. Most people would have obeyed my orders without question. But you had to know. You had to see for yourself. His thumb brushes over my bottom lip, and I shiver despite the warmth of his touch. That curiosity, that courage, or stupidity, depending on how you look at it, that's what makes you interesting. That's what makes you dangerous. I'm not dangerous, I protest, but my voice lacks conviction. Aren't you? His hand moves to the back of my neck, fingers tangling in my hair. You know things now, you've seen things, you're a loose end, just like he said. He gestures with his free hand toward the body on the floor, and I don't leave loose ends. Panic flares in my chest, hot and suffocating. But you said a liability could become an asset. Indeed, I did. His grip on my neck tightens just enough to be a clear warning. But that requires breaking first. Complete and total surrender. Can you do that, Alesha? Can you give me everything? His question is layered with meanings I'm not sure I understand, but I know my answer will determine my fate. I look into his eyes, searching for something, mercy, humanity, anything, but all I find is that dark, hungry fire. And yet beneath it, something else. Something that looks almost like need. I don't have anything left to give, I whisper, thinking of my family's debt, of my dead-end job, of the life that was never really mine to begin with. His smile returns, softer this time. That's where you're wrong. You have yourself, your loyalty, your trust, your. He leans closer, his lips brushing against my ear. Your obedience. A shudder runs through me, part fear, part something else I refuse to name. And if I can't? Then you join him on the floor. His voice is matter-of-fact, as if he's discussing the weather, not my life or death. But I don't think it will come to that. There's something about you, Alesha, something that makes me want to keep you, to see what you'll become. He releases me and steps back, the sudden loss of his touch leaving me feeling cold and exposed. Marco, take our new friend to get medical attention, and make sure he understands the terms of his employment. Marco nods, helping the injured man to his feet and leading him toward the door. As they pass, the man avoids looking at me, at the body, at anything but the floor ahead of him. Now, Leonardo says, turning his full attention back to me, we have a problem. The gallows sent these men. They know about the cafe, about you. They'll try to use you against me. What are you going to do? I ask, my voice barely audible. Protect what's mine. He walks over to the body and crouches down, searching the dead man's pockets. He comes up with a phone and a wallet, both of which he pockets. But first, we need to send a message. He stands and approaches me again, this time with something in his hand, a small, silver object that glints in the moonlight. Your phone. I hesitate only a moment before handing it over. My fingers brush his, and electricity sparks between us, hot and dangerous. He takes the phone and does something with it, his fingers moving quickly over the screen. "There," he says, handing it back. "My private number. You will carry this with you at all times. You will answer when I call, day or night. You will not speak of what you've seen tonight to anyone. Is that clear?" I nod, my throat too tight to speak. "Good." His eyes sweep over me, from my messy bun to my worn sneakers. "You can't go back to the cafe, not tonight, maybe not ever." Panic rises again, but my family will be taken care of, he interrupts. "Your father's debt is forgiven. Consider it a signing bonus." A signing bonus for what? "For your new life." He takes my arm, his grip firm but not painful. "Come, there's someone I want you to meet." He leads me toward a black SUV parked in the shadows, different from the car Marco drove us in. As we approach, the driver's door opens and a woman steps out. She's older, maybe in her late 40s, with silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in an elegant chignon. She's dressed in a tailored black pantsuit, and even in the dim light, I can see the expensive cut of her clothes. "Don Leonardo," she says, her voice smooth as silk. She gives a slight nod of respect, her eyes briefly flicking to me before returning to him. I trust everything went as planned. Better than planned, Isabella. He opens the back door of the SUV. "This is Alessia. She'll be staying with us for a while." Isabella's eyes assess me, sharp and intelligent. There's no judgment in her gaze, only calculation. "Welcome, Alessia. I am Isabella Rossi, the Don's house manager. I'll be responsible for your orientation." "Orientation?" I repeat, confused. Leonardo's hand on my back guides me into the luxurious leather interior of the SUV. "You need new clothes, new documents, a new identity. Isabella will handle everything. You'll be staying at the mansion under my protection." Protection or imprisonment? The words slip out before I can stop them. He leans in, his face close to mine in the confined space. "Is there really a difference when it comes to keeping you safe?" His breath is warm against my cheek. "The gallows won't hesitate to use you to get to me. They'll hurt you, Alessia. They'll do things that would make what you saw tonight look like a child's tantrum. So yes, you will be confined to the mansion. You will be guarded. You will be protected. Whether you see it as a cage or a sanctuary is up to you." He straightens up and closes the door, leaving me alone in the back with Isabella. She slides into the driver's seat, her movements graceful and economical. "Buckle up," she says, her tone professional but not unkind. "We have a busy night ahead of us." As the SUV pulls away from the warehouse, I risk a glance back. Leonardo stands alone in the moonlight, a dark silhouette against the decaying building. Even from this distance, I can feel his power, his presence. He's watching me leave, and I know with chilling certainty that I'm no longer just a waitress who accidentally answered a phone call. I'm something else now, something his, something dangerous. The drive is silent, the city lights blurring past my window. My mind races, trying to process everything that's happened. The gunshot, the body, Leonardo's words, his touch. I should be terrified, and I am, a deep, bone-chilling fear that makes my hands shake. But there's something else too, something dark and thrilling that I can't admit to myself. The way he looked at me, the possessiveness in his touch, the power that radiates from him, it's intoxicating, dangerous, deadly. "Are you all right?" Isabella asks, breaking the silence. "I don't know," I answer honestly. She nods as if this is the expected response. It's a lot to take in. Leonardo can be overwhelming, but he's not a monster, whatever you might think. "He just killed a man," I point out, my voice flat. "He killed a traitor who would have killed him without hesitation. There are rules in our world, Alessia, boundaries. The man who died tonight broke those boundaries. Leonardo simply enforced the consequences. And the other man, the one with the broken wrist, will live and serve. Leonardo values loyalty above all else. He can forgive mistakes, but not betrayal." She glances at me in the rearview mirror. "Remember that. Loyalty is everything." We're pulling into a long, winding driveway now, and I can see the mansion ahead, massive and imposing, with lights glowing warmly in the windows. It looks like a fortress, beautiful and deadly. Your room is already prepared, Isabella says as the SUV stops in front of the grand entrance. Clothes, toiletries, everything you might need. We'll discuss your new role in the morning. My new role. She turns in her seat to face me, her expression serious. Leonardo hasn't decided yet. He wants to see how you adjust. But make no mistake, Alessia, you will have a purpose here. The Dawn doesn't keep pets. The word pets stings, though I'm sure that's her intention. What if I refuse to adjust? Isabella's smile is thin and sharp. Then you'll find out exactly how merciless Leonardo can be, but I don't think you'll refuse. There's a strength in you that he recognizes. A fire. It's why you're still alive. She gets out of the car and opens my door. Come, let's get you settled. The mansion is even more impressive inside than I imagined from my brief visit before. Marble floors, high ceilings, artwork that probably costs more than my family's entire debt. But tonight it feels different, less like a luxury home and more like a gilded cage. Isabella leads me up a grand staircase and down a long hallway to a set of double doors. This will be your room. She pushes them open to reveal a suite larger than my entire apartment. The bathroom is through there, clothes in the closet. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow begins your new life. She's gone before I can ask another question, leaving me alone in the opulent space. I explore slowly, running my hand over expensive fabrics, opening drawers to find designer labels, stepping into a bathroom that looks like it belongs in a five-star hotel. Everything is perfect, everything is provided for, everything is controlled. I find a silk nightgown laid out on the bed and change into it, my worn waitress uniform feeling like a costume from another life. As I slip between the cool sheets, my phone buzzes on the nightstand. It's a text from an unknown number, Leonardo's number. Sleep well, Alessia. Tomorrow we begin your training. I stare at the message, my heart racing. Training for what? What does he want from me? The questions chase each other around my mind as I try to sleep, but exhaustion eventually claims me. I wake to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, and for a moment I think I've dreamed everything. But then I see the silk nightgown, the luxurious room, and reality crashes back in. There's a soft knock at the door, and Isabella enters carrying a tray with coffee and pastries. Good morning. I hope you slept well. As well as can be expected, I say, sitting up and accepting the coffee she offers. Leonardo wants to see you in his study after breakfast. He has your first assignment. She sets the tray on a small table. Eat. You'll need your strength. What kind of assignment? I ask, my stomach twisting. She smiles mysteriously. You'll see, but I will say this, Leonardo believes in learning by doing. He's going to throw you in the deep end. Sink or swim, Alessia. After she leaves, I force myself to eat, though the food tastes like ash in my mouth. I shower and dress in the clothes provided, a simple but elegant black dress that fits perfectly. How do they know my size? The thought is unsettling. Everything about this is unsettling. At exactly 9 o'clock, I knock on the door to Leonardo's study. His voice calls for me to enter, and I step into the room where this all began. He's behind his desk today, dressed in a dark suit that makes him look even more powerful than before. Alessia. He gestures to the chair opposite his desk. Sit. I obey, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. You wanted to see me. I did. He steeples his fingers, his dark eyes assessing me. How are you feeling this morning? Confused, scared, angry. Good, he leans forward. Those emotions will keep you alive. Fear is a weapon, Alessia, yours and your enemies. The trick is learning to control it. What's my assignment? I ask, wanting to get this over with. He slides a folder across the desk. This is the Gallo family, our rivals. They've been encroaching on my territory, moving product through my docks. The men you saw last night were their advanced scouts. I open the folder to find photographs, dossiers, maps. It's like something from a spy movie. What am I supposed to do with this? Memorize it, every face, every name, every location. The Gallos operate out of a string of businesses in the North End. a bakery, a butcher shop, a dry cleaner, all legitimate fronts for their operations. I flip through the pages, my hands trembling slightly. The faces staring back at me are hard, cruel, the kind of men who wouldn't think twice about hurting someone like me. Why are you showing me this? Because knowledge is power, Alesha. And right now you have none. That makes you vulnerable. That makes you a liability. He stands and walks around the desk, leaning against it beside my chair. Close enough that I can smell his cologne, something expensive and dark, like leather and spice. The Gallows know you were with me last night. They don't know who you are yet, but they'll find out. And when they do, they'll see you as the perfect way to get to me. My throat goes dry. What do you want from me? I want you to be my eyes, my ears. You're a waitress, remember? People notice waitresses. They talk in front of them, dismiss them as part of the scenery. It's the perfect cover. I shake my head, disbelief warring with dawning horror. You want me to spy for you? Go back to the cafe and… No. His voice is sharp, cutting through my rising panic. Not yet, you're not ready. First, you need to learn, to observe, to see what others miss, to remember everything. He reaches out and tucks a strand of hair behind my ear, his fingers lingering against my skin. Electricity shoots through me, dangerous and unwanted. This folder is your first lesson. Memorize it, every detail. When I'm satisfied you know it, we'll move on to the next phase. And if I refuse, the words come out barely above a whisper. Leonardo's smile doesn't reach his eyes. We've already established what happens if you refuse, but I don't think you will. He straightens up and walks to the window, looking out over his perfectly manicured grounds. There's a part of you that's intrigued by this world, isn't there? A part that's tired of being ordinary, of serving coffee to people who never really see you. He turns back to face me, and the intensity in his gaze makes my breath catch. I see you, Alesha. I've seen you since the first moment you walked into my study. There's fire in you. Strength. You just needed someone to bring it out. I want to deny it, to tell him he's wrong, but the words stick in my throat. Because part of me, the part that's been sleepwalking through life since my father's accident, the part that's been drowning under the weight of my family's debt, isn't entirely opposed to this, to being seen, to mattering, even if it's in the most dangerous way possible. How long do I have? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Until dinner, 6 hours. Isabella will bring you meals, you're not to leave your room. He walks back to his desk and picks up a phone. And Alesha? I look up from the folder. Don't disappoint me. I'm dismissed. I gather the folder and stand, my legs feeling unsteady. As I reach the door, his voice stops me. One more thing. I turn back. He's watching me with an expression I can't quite read, possessive, calculating, something else that makes my heart race. The clothes you're wearing, they suit you. Much better than that cafe uniform. Heat floods my cheeks. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just wear them. He returns his attention to his phone call, and I slip out of the study, my mind reeling. Back in my room, I spread the contents of the folder across the bed. Photographs of men with cold eyes, detailed reports on their habits and routines, maps marked with routes and meeting points. It's overwhelming, terrifying, and bizarrely fascinating. For 6 hours, I pore over the information. I memorize faces, names, aliases. I learn that Marco Gallo, the family's underboss, has a weakness for expensive watches and women half his age. That his younger brother, Rico, runs the bakery front but has a side business in illegal gambling. That their father, the Don, is dying of cancer, which is why his sons are getting reckless, expanding territory, taking risks they wouldn't normally take. It's like studying for the most important exam of my life, where failure means death. As the afternoon light fades, Isabella brings dinner on a tray. How's it going? She asks, setting down the food. I think I have most of it memorized. She nods approvingly. Leonardo will be pleased. He has high expectations, but he's fair if you meet them. What happens if I don't? I ask, picking at a piece of bread. Let's not find out. She hesitates at the door. He's different with you, you know. I've worked for Leonardo for 5 years, and I've never seen him like this with anyone. Like what? Interested, truly interested. Most people are either tools or obstacles to him. You're something else. She leaves me with that unsettling thought, and I force myself to eat, knowing I'll need my strength. At exactly 7, I return to the study. Leonardo is standing by the fireplace, a glass of what looks like whiskey in his hand. The firelight catches the sharp angles of his face, making him look even more dangerous than usual. "Close the door," he says without turning around. I do, my heart pounding. "Tell me about Marco Gallo." I take a deep breath and begin, reciting everything I've learned. His routines, his weaknesses, the restaurants he frequents, the women he sees. When I'm finished, the room is silent except for the crackling of the fire. Leonardo turns slowly, his expression unreadable. "Impressive." He sets down his glass and walks toward me. "Very impressive, in fact. You have a good memory, an eye for detail." He stops in front of me, close enough that I have to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "Did you enjoy learning about our enemies?" "No," I say honestly, "but I understand why it's necessary." "Good." He reaches out and traces the line of my jaw with his thumb. "Because there's more, much more." His touch sends shivers through me, and I hate how my body responds to him. How my pulse quickens, how warmth pools low in my belly. This man kills without hesitation, rules his empire with fear and violence. I should be repulsed. I am repulsed. But I'm also drawn to him in a way that scares me more than any rival mafia family could. "Tomorrow," he says, his voice dropping lower, "we're going to test your observation skills in the field." "The field," I repeat, my voice squeaking. "A restaurant downtown. The Gallos sometimes dine there. You'll be with me, posing as my date. Your job is to watch, listen, remember anything that might be useful." "Your date?" The words come out before I can stop them. A slow smile spreads across his face. "Problem." "No, it's just, people will talk, they'll wonder who I am." "Let them wonder." His thumb moves to my lower lip, brushing it softly. "They'll assume you're mine, and they won't be wrong." The possessiveness in his voice should anger me, should make me run. Instead, it does something else entirely. Something I'm not ready to examine too closely. "What should I wear?" I ask, hating how breathless I sound. "Isabella will bring you something appropriate. Something that matches my status." His eyes sweep over me, lingering in places that make my skin flush. "Something that shows everyone you belong to me." I should argue, should tell him I don't belong to anyone, but the words won't come. Because part of me, the dark part that's been awakening since this all began, likes the idea, likes being claimed by someone so powerful, so dangerous. "I should go," I manage to say, taking a step back. "Yes," he agrees, but he doesn't move away. "You should. Before I forget myself and do something we'll both regret." The air between us crackles with tension, with unspoken possibilities. For a moment, I think he's going to kiss me. Part of me wants him to. "Alessia," he says, his voice rough. "Go." I practically flee the room, my heart racing, my body humming with a dangerous mix of fear and desire. Back in the safety of my suite, I press my back against the door and try to calm my breathing. What is happening to me? This man represents everything I should fear, everything I should run from. Yet I'm drawn to him like a moth to a flame, knowing I'll get burned. The next morning, Isabella arrives with a garment bag. "Leonardo's orders," she says, laying it across the bed. "You're to be ready by 7. Inside is a dress the color of midnight blue, made of some material that shimmers when it catches the light. It's elegant, sophisticated, and completely unlike anything I've ever worn. "It's beautiful," I whisper, touching the fabric. "It should be. It cost more than most people's cars." Isabella helps me with my hair and makeup, transforming me from a waitress into someone who could believably be on the arm of a mafia boss. "Remember tonight," she says as she puts the finishing touches on my lipstick. "You're his date, but you're also his student. Watch everything. Listen to everyone. Leonardo will be testing you. What if I fail? Then you deal with the consequences." "But you won't fail." She meets my eyes in the mirror. "I've seen the way he looks at you. He wants you to succeed. That's more than can be said for most people in his world." At 7, I descend the grand staircase, my heart in my throat. Leonardo is waiting in the foyer, and when he looks up and sees me, something flashes in his eyes: appreciation, desire, pride. "You look." He trails off as he reaches the bottom step, taking my hand and raising it to his lips. "Perfect." His kiss on my knuckles is formal, but his eyes burn with an intensity that makes me tremble. "Ready for your first field test?" "As ready as I'll ever be." The restaurant is exclusive, the kind of place that requires reservations months in advance. The maitre d' greets Leonardo by name, his posture deferential. "Don Leonardo, welcome. Your table is ready." Heads turn as we're led through the dining room. I can feel the weight of dozens of stairs. the curiosity and fear in people's eyes as they recognize Leonardo. He places his hand on the small of my back, a proprietary gesture that both comforts and unnerves me. "Relax," he murmurs in my ear. "You're doing fine." Our table is in a secluded corner, giving us a view of the entire room while providing some privacy. Leonardo holds my chair, another gesture that feels both chivalrous and controlling. "Do you see anyone you recognize?" he asks once we're seated. I scan the room discreetly, my eyes moving from face to face. And then I see him, Rico Gallo, sitting at a table across the room with two other men. "Rico Gallo," I say softly, "with two associates. They're drinking expensive wine and laughing too loudly." Leonardo's lips curve into a smile. "Good, what else do you observe?" The man to Rico's left keeps checking his phone. He's nervous. The other one, the bigger one, is watching the door. They're expecting someone. "Excellent." Leonardo signals the waiter. "Order whatever you'd like. And don't worry about the cost." As the waiter takes our order, I continue my observations. Rico Gallo is arrogant, his movements expansive as he talks with his hands, but there's something else too, a desperation beneath the confidence. He's trying too hard to appear powerful, in control. "He's scared," I say when the waiter leaves. "Rico, he's putting on a show, but underneath he's terrified." Leonardo raises an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "The way he keeps drinking. He's on his third glass of wine and we've only been here 10 minutes. And his laugh, it's too loud, too forced. He's trying to convince himself and everyone else that he's in charge." Leonardo studies me across the table, his expression unreadable. "You're better at this than I expected. Most people would have missed that. I spent years waiting tables. You learn to read people quickly in that job. Who's having a bad day, who's trying to impress someone, who's going to leave a good tip. And who's going to cause trouble? That too." Our food arrives and we eat in comfortable silence, though I can feel Leonardo's eyes on me. It's both unnerving and exhilarating, being the focus of his complete attention. "Tell me about your family," he says suddenly, catching me off guard. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. Your parents, siblings, why your family is in debt to me." I hesitate, unsure how much to reveal. "My father had an accident at the construction site where he worked. Fell from scaffolding. The medical bills were extensive, and he hasn't been able to work since." "And your mother?" "She cleans houses, takes whatever work she can get. My brother, he's just started college. We're trying to keep him in school, give him a chance at a better life." Leonardo nods, absorbing this information. "And you? What did you want before all this?" The question catches me off guard. What did I want? A normal life, I suppose. To pay off my family's debts, maybe save enough to open my own small cafe someday. Something simple, something safe. "I don't know," I answer honestly. "I never really thought beyond surviving day to day. And now?" His gaze is intense, searching. "Now I'm having dinner with a mafia boss, learning to spy on his enemies. I think surviving day to day has taken on a whole new meaning." A ghost of a smile touches his lips. "That it has. But you're handling it well, better than most would. Do I have a choice?" "Everyone has choices, Alessia. Some are just more dangerous than others." Before I can respond, the door to the restaurant opens and Marco Gallo walks in. He's exactly as his picture described, expensive suit, watch that probably costs more than my family's home, an air of entitlement that's visible from across the room. "Speak softly," Leonardo murmurs. "Tell me what you see." Marco just arrived. He's angry. Look at his face, he's practically snarling at the maitre d', and he's walking too fast, drawing attention to himself. Good, what else? He's not looking at Rico or his men, he's scanning the room, looking for someone else, or something. As Marco approaches Rico's table, the atmosphere changes. The nervous associate becomes even more agitated, while the big one tenses, his hand moving inside his jacket. They're armed, of course they are. "They're arguing," I whisper, watching as Marco leans over Rico's table, his voice low but furious. Rico is trying to placate him, but it's not working. Marco just slammed his hand on the table. Leonardo's expression darkens. They're getting reckless, drawing attention to themselves. Should we be worried? Never, but they should be. Marco straightens up and looks around the room again, and for a terrifying moment, his eyes meet mine. There's recognition there, followed by confusion, then suspicion. He knows who Leonardo is, but he doesn't know me, and in their world, an unknown variable is a dangerous one. "He saw me," I say, my voice barely audible. "I know. Leonardo's hand covers mine on the table, his touch reassuring despite the circumstances. Stay calm, don't look away, let him wonder. Marco says something to his men, then strides toward our table. The restaurant seems to hold its breath, diners pretending not to notice as the tension escalates. Leonardo, Marco says when he reaches our table, his voice dripping with false politeness. Fancy seeing you here. Marco, Leonardo replies coolly, not standing. I could say the same, though your arrival seems to have disturbed the peace. Marco's eyes flick to me, his gaze lingering on my face with open curiosity. And who is this lovely creature you're hiding away tonight? Leonardo's fingers tighten slightly around mine, a subtle warning that I feel more than see. This is Alessia, he says, his voice smooth as silk but with an edge of steel beneath it. She's with me. The possessiveness in his tone sends a shiver down my spine, equal parts terrifying and thrilling. Marco's eyes narrow, his suspicion deepening. Alessia, I don't believe we've met. Are you new to our city? She's new to our world, Leonardo answers before I can speak, his thumb stroking circles on the back of my hand. But that's none of your concern, Marco. You were having a rather heated discussion with your cousin. Perhaps you should return to it before you cause a scene. The veiled threat hangs in the air between them, thick and dangerous. I can feel the entire restaurant watching us, their fear palpable even through their attempts to appear oblivious. Marco's smile doesn't reach his eyes. Always so protective of your possessions, Leonardo, though I must say, this one is particularly exquisite. Are you sure you want to keep her all to yourself? Leonardo leans back in his chair, adopting an air of casual indifference that I know is anything but. I'm sure of many things, Marco. One of them is that you should mind your own business. Another is that you're drawing unwanted attention to yourself. The third, he pauses, letting the silence stretch uncomfortably, is that you wouldn't like what happens if you continue to stare at my companion. The threat is unmistakable now, raw and dangerous. Marco's face flushes with anger, but he's smart enough to know when he's outmatched. With one last lingering look at me, a look that promises trouble, he straightens his jacket and walks away. The restaurant exhales collectively as he returns to his table. Well, Leonardo says, picking up his wine glass as if nothing happened. That was interesting. Interesting? I whisper, my heart still racing. He looked at me like he was trying to decide whether to kill me or kidnap me. Leonardo takes a slow sip of wine, his eyes never leaving mine. He won't do either, not unless he wants to start a war he can't win. But he knows I'm with you now. He'll ask questions, find out who I am. Let him. Leonardo sets down his glass and reaches across the table, tilting my chin up with his fingers. You're with me, Alessia. That means you're under my protection. No one touches what's mine. The possessiveness in his voice should scare me, and part of me is terrified. But another part, a darker part I didn't know existed, feels a thrill of safety, of being claimed by someone so powerful that even his enemies think twice before looking at me too long. What happens now? I ask, my voice barely steady. Now we finish our dinner. Then we go home. His thumb traces my jawline, sending electricity through my body. And tomorrow, your real training begins. The rest of dinner passes in a blur of tension and awareness. I can feel Marco's eyes on us from across the room, his anger and frustration radiating like heat. Leonardo seems completely unfazed, discussing art and music as if we're just a normal couple on a date. But beneath the surface, I can feel his coiled tension, his readiness for violence if needed. When we finally leave the restaurant, the cool night air is a welcome relief. Leonardo's car is waiting at the curb, his driver standing ready to open the door. But before I can slide in, Leonardo pulls me aside, his body close enough that I can feel the warmth radiating from him. You did well tonight, he says, his voice low and intimate. Better than well, you have instincts, Alessia, natural talent for this world. I was scared, I admit, my breath catching as his hand cups my cheek. Good, fear keeps you alive, but you didn't let it control you. You observed, you analyzed, you reported back to me. That's exactly what I need. His thumb brushes over my lower lip, and I feel a surge of desire so intense it almost makes me gasp. Leonardo, SHH. His eyes darken with something I recognize from our earlier encounters, desire mixed with possession. Don't speak, just feel. And then he's kissing me, his lips claiming mine with a ferocity that takes my breath away. This isn't a gentle kiss or a romantic one. It's a claiming, a marking, a warning to anyone who might think I'm available. His tongue parts my lips, demanding entrance, and I open for him without hesitation. The world narrows to this moment, the taste of wine on his tongue, the strength of his hands on my back pulling me closer, the hardness of his body against mine. When he finally pulls back, we're both breathing heavily. "Now they know," he says, his voice rough with emotion. "Now everyone knows you're mine." The ride back to his mansion is silent, but charged with unspoken tension. I can feel Leonardo's eyes on me in the darkness of the car, his presence overwhelming even from across the seat. My lips still tingle from his kiss, my body humming with a mixture of fear and desire that I've never experienced before. Isabella is waiting for us when we arrive, her expression unreadable as she takes in my disheveled appearance and Leonardo's possessive hand on my lower back. "I trust the evening went well?" she asks, though I suspect she already knows the answer. "Better than expected," Leonardo says, guiding me toward the grand staircase. "Alessia has proven to be quite observant. And Marco? He knows she's with me, that's all he needs to know." Isabella nods, but there's concern in her eyes. "Be careful, Leonardo. Making her known to your enemies puts a target on her back." "The target was already there," he says, his voice hard. "Now they know it's a target they can't touch without consequences." In my room, Isabella helps me out of the expensive dress, her movements gentle but efficient. "You impressed him tonight," she says as she hangs the gown in the closet. "That's both good and dangerous." "Good because he won't kill me?" I ask, only half joking. "Good because he'll protect you. Dangerous because his protection comes with expectations, and consequences if you disappoint him." She turns to face me, her expression serious. "What happened at the restaurant with Marco Gallo?" I tell her everything, how Marco approached our table, the way he looked at me, Leonardo's possessive response, the kiss in front of the restaurant. Isabella listens without interruption, her face growing more concerned with each detail. "He marked you," she says when I finish. "In front of everyone, in front of Marco. He said he needed to make it clear I was his." "Oh, he made that clear. But he also made you a priority target F."